Hello, you are safe here. The day has done its work and you may finally let it go. Take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and let it flow out gently, as though you are exhaling into the evening itself. Our story begins on the banks of the Nile, at dusk. The river is wide and unhurried, as if it has learned that time is patient. Its surface shifts with the last light of the day, carrying glimmers of bronze and honey. Along the shore, papyrus reeds bend into one another, whispering like pages turning in a book. Farther out, the current lifts a patch of light and sets it down again, forgetting it politely. A felucca rests at the edge of the water. Its sail, pale and simple, still holds the warmth of the sun. The mast creaks in a language of wood, and the hull rocks gently, waiting for the evening to invite it forward. The boatman prepares his ropes, his gestures quiet, practiced, steady. He knows that the river sets the pace, and the Nile has always chosen calm. Around you, the air carries layers of scent, wet earth, rich and cool. Smoke from a cooking fire somewhere among the palms, the sweetness of bread, drawn from a clay oven, its steam reminding you of fields where the grain once stood tall. None of these smells compete. They arrive like gentle guests, each with its own soft greeting. Children test the shallows with their toes and laugh quietly at the water's coolness. A fisherman gathers his net, his hands moving with the rhythm of habit rather than effort. A heron folds itself into stillness, a thin line among the reeds. Across the sand, a jackal leaves one clear set of prints and vanishes, as if the wild itself is preparing to rest. If you choose to sit, the stones beneath you accept your weight. Without question, they have accepted countless others before, and they will accept countless more. The evening deepens slowly. Night here is not a curtain pulled shut, but a conversation, gentle and steady. Colors retreat step by step, shadows stretching, the first stars appearing without hurry. You step into the boat. The wood feels smooth, shaped by years of carrying travelers. A coil of rope by your side remembers the shoulders that once leaned against it. The boatman glances at you, satisfied, then turns forward again. The sail lifts, catching a small wind, and the felucca glides into the river, leaving a line that vanishes the moment it is drawn. Behind you, the village softens. Voices fold into the fabric of evening. Lamps appear in doorways, little stars brought closer to the ground. A dog barks once, then decides that silence suits the night better. The oar dips, rises, dips again. Each stroke speaks in the patient syllables of water. You may trail your hand through the current if you wish. The Nile is cool, neither sharp nor harsh. It gathers your fingerprints for a moment and returns them unchanged. You are not asked to hold on. You are already being carried. Across the river, fields stretch in quiet order. Barley, wheat, onions, all neat rows in the long sentence of survival. Beyond them, the land rises gently, its green giving way to the golden shade of stone. Behind those slopes lie tombs, temples, and names preserved in silence. But not tonight. Tonight is for crossing. The boatman unwraps a small basket. Inside is bread, a piece of cheese, and a handful of dates. He offers you some, and the gesture needs no words. The bread cracks softly. The cheese is simple. The dates taste of the sun. A clay jar is opened and cool water quenches the throat with clean clarity. The food is not grand, but it is enough. Above, the stars increase, slow but steady, filling the fabric of the night. The air cools slightly, reminding you that change can arrive gently. The river continues its song and you breathe with it. Inhale as the oar dips, exhale as it rises. The cadence is simple, steady, and it teaches the body what the mind has forgotten. Rest is allowed. If you wish, you may close your eyes now. The boat will remain beneath you. The river will keep its path. The night will not ask you for anything more. The Nile carries the felucca forward, eternal, patient, and kind, and our story has only just begun. The felucca slides away from the bank with no resistance, as if the river itself had invited it. The sail swells like a chest, taking its first slow breath of the evening, and the wooden hull glides forward, scratching a line across the surface that disappears as quickly as it is written. Behind you, the village dims. Lamps in clay niches flicker, as though they are remembering their own flames from the night before. A single dog barks once, then thinks better of it, returning to silence. The smell of bread and smoke grows faint, replaced by the mineral coolness of the open river. The water has its own voice now. The dip of the oar creates a pattern. Enter, pause, lift, return. The sound is simple, but when repeated it becomes a song. The boatman does not hurry. He lets the Nile set the rhythm, and the Nile prefers patience. You lean back against a coil of rope. It has rested against many shoulders, and tonight it accepts yours with the same quiet loyalty. If you lower your hand to the water, it greets you with calm coolness. The current touches your skin just long enough to acknowledge you, then passes on, carrying your reflection away in small broken fragments. On the far bank, the fields appear in fading light. Strips of barley and wheat lie folded like cloth, and palm trees write their tall lines across the sky. The west rises beyond them, its slopes already turning from green to honey-colored stone. Shadows lengthen into that land, hinting at hidden chambers and memories pressed deep into earth. The boatman unwraps a small basket. Inside lies bread, pale cheese, and a handful of dates. He offers you a piece. The bread cracks softly when broken, the cheese tastes of morning milk, and the dates carry the sun's sweetness, condensed into amber flesh. A clay jar is opened, and water with a faint flavor of earth passes into your throat. It is simple enough and without demand. A small lamp is lit on the deck. Its flame is tidy, steady, and no brighter than it needs to be. Moths hover near it, but choose instead to drift with the current. The boat's planks glow faintly in the lamplight, revealing the grain of wood that once stood as trees and now continues its journey upon the water. Above, stars present themselves one by one. At first they seem shy, but soon they gather with quiet confidence, filling the wide fabric of the sky. The air cools in a way that soothes rather than chills. You breathe in time with the sail, rising and falling, catching and releasing. The current carries fragments of life past the boat. A crocodile surfaces briefly, a sentence written in water, then disappears. Ducks raft together in sleep, trusting the river to shepherd them. The Nile speaks to itself in ripples, and the boat listens without interruption. Your breath falls into the rhythm of the river. Arrive, pause, leave. Arrive, pause, leave. Each cycle is a ferry carrying you from the day into the night, from wakefulness into rest. You feel your shoulders sink, your hands soften, your thoughts becoming lighter, as if the boat has taken some of their weight into its own wood. If you close your eyes, nothing will change. The boat will remain beneath you. The river will keep its path. The night will not demand performance. All that is required is presence here, now, with the Nile flowing under stars that have kept watch for longer than history itself. The felucca moves steadily, guided by hands that know effort without hurry. Ahead, the west bank draws nearer. Lamps are waiting there, small flames in clay jars promising rest. The rope creaks once more, the sail adjusts its curve, and the river carries you onward as it always has, as it always will. The boat reaches the west bank with the gentlest of sounds, more sigh than arrival. Rope meets post, wood touches wood, and the knot holds with quiet confidence. The boatman steps ashore, his sandals pressing the sand with a sound like folded cloth. A path winds upward through palms and tamarisk, its dust the color of faded parchment. Footprints from the day remain, bare, sandaled, the light, confident ovals of children's heels. Your own steps join the record without protest. The village announces itself not with noise but with light. Lamps glow at each doorway, small flames cupped in niches of clay. They flicker like stars brought down to earth, guiding the lanes with warm punctuation. Between them, alleys flow as dark ribbons, not empty but expectant. Dogs curl into commas in the corners. Somewhere a loom finishes its final row, the shuttle sliding across with a sigh of thread. A fig tree leans over a courtyard, its branches heavy with fruit. One leaf shifts to cradle a single fig, promising sweetness tomorrow. A woman lifts bread from a clay oven whose mouth glows like an ember. The loaves exhale the heat of flour transformed, the scent of patience made edible. She splits one open and steam curls upward with the memory of fields and water and sun. A spoon of date syrup is spread across, folded like a letter, and offered with a smile that requires no words. You take it. It is enough. Men sit on low stools outside a doorway where mint leaves swim in hot water. Cups are the size of patience. Each sip is a vote for peace. Their voices drift in low tones, not to persuade but to affirm that the day has closed properly. A child runs by and is gently slowed by a hand on his head, reminded that speed is not always the best way forward. He accepts the touch as inclusion rather than correction. Beyond the houses, goats edit the scraps of the day into tomorrow's milk. Chickens settle into roosts and count themselves satisfied. A potter taps the rim of a new bowl with his fingernail, listening to its note. It rings low and true, proof that mud has become something useful. He nods content. The bowl will serve quietly, and that is all it needs to do. The air is thick with comfort. Not heavy, comfort. The way a blanket has weight when it belongs to your shoulders. Smells gather in paragraphs. Cumin, smoke, sweat, coriander, clay cooled by evening. The lamps are punctuation marks, full stops that tell the day it has reached its end. You're shown a mat woven from reeds. It has held many nights without breaking one. A jug of water waits on a stand, cool from the clay that has been storing the night since before sunset. A folded cloth rests near your head, because someone thought of the possibility of need. The room accepts you without questions. It does not ask who you are, nor what you intend. It allows you to be simply present. Outside, the last sounds close the fabric of the day. A broom made of palm fronds finishes sweeping a courtyard. A lamp shifts its flame and finds its shape again. A spoon is placed softly on a shelf, so that no dish disturbs another. The final gestures of living are careful, respectful of sleep about to arrive. You lie down. The mat adjusts beneath you, creaking once as if to say, "We remember." The air cools further, brushing across your skin without demand. You breathe long and slow, and the body answers with a release it had been holding too tightly. Around you, the village does not ask for effort. It asks only for stillness. Close your eyes if you wish. The lamps will keep watch. The fig tree will hold its sweetness. The river will continue beyond the fields. Your task is simple now. To rest as the day rests, as the village rests, as the Nile rests under the stars that have never forgotten how to shine. Morning arrives like a friend who knows how to knock softly. Light slips along the palm mat wall, gathers itself in the corners, and waits there without hurry. Air moves through the room with the scent of clay and cool water. Outside, a rooster reports the basics. Sky, feet, tasks without drama. You sit up slowly. The reed mat creaks once, remembering other mornings, and then holds steady. The lane outside is dust, the color of warm parchment. Footprints from the night are shallow. New ones begin to write over them. A woman carries a jar on her head with a balance that owes nothing to luck. Two children sort pebbles by color with the seriousness of scribes. A donkey chooses shade before work, and his owner accepts the decision as if it were weather. The market gathers where the lanes widen. Shade comes first, goods follow. Cloth roofs make low squares of sky so that those who are busy can still walk under blue. Baskets show their woven ribs with pride. Cords are coiled like patient snakes. Fish from the river lie on crushed ice that smells like a rumor of rain. Bread is pressed against a warm stone and returns as a flat circle that steams when folded. Its crust speaks in soft crackles. Its crumb holds the memory of fields and water. You are given a piece with a pinch of salt and a line of date syrup. There is no ceremony beyond the giving, and none is needed. You chew, and the jaw learns the calm grammar of ordinary food. A pot of fenugreek tea breathes on a brazier. Mint leaves are added with a clink of the ladle, not so much for taste as for permission to pause. The cups are small, the color of clean soil after rain. Steam curls upward and writes quiet punctuation in the air. You drink and feel the spine lengthen of its own accord. Stalls speak in small inventories, onions in precise families, garlic in tidy constellations, dates in confident pyramids. A jar of olives shines like dark coins. Coriander, cumin, and sesame sketch a map of the wind as it passes. Nothing shouts. Everything is available to those who ask in the language of please. At the edge of the square, a scribe spreads a strip of papyrus across his knee. He sharpens a reed and tests the point on his thumbnail. When he writes, the line is steady enough that people stand a little straighter near him. He looks up once and you see the river in his eyes, patience, and the insistence of things that deserve to be recorded. A boy waits with a message. The scribe nods, shapes the words, and blows gently to seal their quiet. Metal taps somewhere. A coppersmith asking the morning if the bowl is true. The note rings low and correct. A potter lifts a jar by the neck and weighs it like a promise. Goats pass, editing scraps into milk. A cat checks each stall and decides to sleep under the one with clay jars. Work here is thorough, not theatrical. Sun finds the square with a hand that knows where to touch. It warms shoulders and jars, and the backs of the hands that count coins. People lift their chins to it as if to greet a neighbor who has returned from a short journey. The light is kind but honest. It makes details legible and leaves nothing ashamed. You feel your own breath lengthen to match the day's pace. You buy nothing you cannot carry in one hand. A small loaf for later, a few dates, a strip of linen to keep dust from the jar mouth. Coins change hands with thanks in both directions. No one wastes words. None are withheld. The market approves of sufficiency and does not punish modest appetites. At the far side, a well waits with a rope worn smooth by agreement. You pull once. The bucket rises with a sound like a song learned long ago. Water in the mouth is colder than the air and brighter than thought. You remember that thirst is neither flaw nor failure, only a request the world is often willing to answer. You drink again, smaller this time, and stop before the body needs to ask. The boatman appears with a nod that counts as conversation. He holds a coil of new rope the way some men hold a book. "Good morning," he says, which in this place means, "The river is ready if you are." You follow him past the stalls, past the cat, past the boy now racing a shadow. The path back to the water is short because the Nile does not like to be far from the day. Down at the bank, fishermen mend nets in loops that could go on forever. One gestures to the sky and the others look, but there is nothing to see except the fact that looking together is its own task. The felucca waits with the patience of wood and canvas. Its deck has cooled. Its mast keeps one small squeak in reserve for the first wind. You step aboard and the boat recognizes your weight the way a chair recognizes its owner. Before casting off, you turn once toward the market. Lamps now invisible in daylight. Voices small but sufficient. A square that will reassemble tomorrow in almost the same order. It is enough to know this rhythm exists even when you are not looking at it. The boatman releases the knot. The river accepts the decision without comment, as it has always done. The sail rises with a single clean breath. Water slides from the hull in a polite hush. Sunlight lays a thin path ahead that is not a demand but an invitation. You settle your back against the rope that remembers you. The felucca leans into the current and the morning leans with it, and together they carry you on. The river narrows for a time and then widens again as if stretching after sleep. Your felucca drifts toward a bank where the sound of work hums beneath the surface of air. Not loud, not harsh, only steady, the pulse of hands and tools and stone. Here men and women shape the bones of the earth into walls, ramps and pillars that will outlast memory. Blocks of limestone lie in neat rows like sentences waiting to be read. Their edges are clean, but their weight is patient, insisting on being moved only with respect. Ropes loop around them in wide embraces. Wooden sledges carry them across the sand, pulled by teams of men whose feet beat a rhythm older than song. Water is poured before the sledges so that sand yields instead of resisting, and the stones glide forward, slow but certain. The sound here is layered, the tap of copper chisels against rock, sharp and bright, the thud of mallets deep and sure, the scrape of rope across wood, a dry whisper. Above it all, the low chant of workers who share breath, timing their efforts so that no one pulls alone. The chant is not about words. It is about agreement. Each voice is a hand added to the rope. Nearby, masons smooth a block until its face glows pale in the sun. They crouch close, their tools light in the hand, removing slivers no thicker than a fingernail. Dust gathers in the air, smelling faintly of chalk and sun. One man runs his palm across the stone, and the stone answers with a cool, even silence. Satisfied, he nods and steps back. The block is ready to become part of something larger than itself. Children carry jars of water to the workers. They walk carefully, the clay cool against their arms, the liquid sloshing but never wasted. When a jar is lifted to thirsty lips, the worker closes his eyes for one grateful breath. Water in this place is not only drink, it is permission to continue. Each swallow is a pact between body and stone. We will shape each other, and we will both endure. Beyond the noise, scaffolding climbs like ladders into the sky. Wooden beams cross and knot, holding pathways for the workers who ascend with baskets of sand and chisel bags. From a distance, the structure looks fragile. Up close, it holds the weight of faith and routine. Every step on the beams is measured. Every hand knows where to grip. Mistakes are rare not because danger is absent, but because care has become instinct. You walk among them slowly, unnoticed yet included. Faces are calm, lined by sun and dust, but not by complaint. They do not ask for speed. They ask only that each action be done correctly. A mason glances at you once, as though to say, "Stones do not hurry, so neither should we." The lesson lingers like the taste of water after thirst. Above, vultures circle not in menace but in curiosity. They have seen many days like this, many stones moved, many walls rise. The air carries the faint smell of sweat, mixed with crushed limestone, sharp but honest. The ground shakes softly under the passing of sledges. Each vibration is like the heartbeat of the earth itself, slow and strong. Closer to the river, carpenters shape wood for sledges and scaffolds. Their tools rasp in steady strokes, filling the air with curls of cedar and acacia. Children gather the shavings, using them to feed small fires. The flames snap lightly, and the smell of resin joins the dust and sweat. Even here where stone dominates, wood insists on being useful, flexible and kind. As the sun leans westward, the workers pause. Tools are set aside, not dropped. Ropes are coiled, not abandoned. They sit together on blocks of stone, breaking bread that tastes of grain and salt, chewing slowly as though each bite deserves its own silence. A jar of beer passes from hand to hand, thick and sweet, each sip more nourishment than indulgence. The chant has ended, but its rhythm remains in their breathing. The boatman waits for you near the water, his arms resting across his knees. He watches the workers with an expression that is neither judgment nor envy, only recognition. "Stone remembers," he says quietly, "and so do hands." Then he rises, brushes the dust from his legs, and gestures toward the felucca. It is time to move again, time to let the river carry you onward, past stone and rope and chant, toward the next chapter of the Nile's long memory. The river carries you farther south, where sandstone rises in warm colors, cut into shapes that seem too deliberate to be natural. Towers stand against the horizon, carved with lines that hold both shadow and meaning. The felucca drifts toward a landing where wide steps descend directly into the water, worn smooth by centuries of feet. Here begins the temple. The air changes as you step ashore. It carries smoke, thin, fragrant, and curling with patience. Resin and myrrh drift together, sweet and earthy, neither heavy nor demanding. The smell enters your breath as if it has been waiting. Sand crunches under your sandals, but the sound fades quickly once you pass beneath the first stone arch. Inside, the temple folds the outside world into silence. Columns rise in pairs, painted once in bright colors, but now softened into earth tones. They are wide enough to embrace and tall enough to lose themselves in darkness. Carvings run their length, reeds, birds, the wide open eyes of gods. Torches glow in brackets, lighting the carved figures so they flicker as though alive. Shadows repeat each gesture, doubling the number of watchers in the hall. Priests walk slowly across the flagstones, their linen robes whispering at the hem. They carry small copper bowls of incense, raising them as they pass. Smoke trails behind in threads that weave through torchlight, drifting across the carvings like words read aloud. None of them speak. Their silence has weight, but it doesn't press. It carries you along, deeper inside. An open court waits at the heart of the temple. The sky above is framed by stone on all sides, a square of blue deepening into twilight. Birds pass overhead, their wings bright against the last light. At the center, a brazier glows with coals, red at the core, edged with ash. A priest adds resin and the air blooms with fragrance that lingers on the tongue as well as in the lungs. You find a place to sit near the edge of the courtyard. Stone beneath you holds the day's warmth. releasing it slowly into your body. The murmur of wings overhead becomes part of the stillness. Around the brazier, priests kneel and rise in rhythm, their gestures precise but unhurried. Each movement is a conversation, an offering without expectation of reply. A hymn begins. Low voices, slow and steady, like the river itself flowing through stone. The notes repeat, not to impress, but to remind. They circle back upon themselves, layering sound until it feels as though the walls themselves are breathing. The smoke lifts upward, carrying song with it, and the sky above seems to lean down in answer. You close your eyes, and the hymn continues inside your chest. The sound is not music alone, it is pattern, structure, the skeleton of stillness. Each note lengthens the breath, slows the pulse, lowers the shoulders. The chant does not end so much as dissolve, leaving its shape behind in silence. That silence is no emptiness. It is full, held, and alive. When the hymn ends, a priest places a small offering before the brazier. Bread, figs, and a clay jug of water. The gesture is simple, unadorned. Yet the moment feels larger than itself. A reminder that even the most ordinary gifts carry meaning when given with care. The bread cracks softly, the figs glisten, and the water reflects the firelight like a second flame. Night falls fully, and torches take the work of the sun. Their flames ripple against stone, painting the carvings in gold and black. Stars appear in the square of sky above the courtyard. They look down as they always have, patient, unblinking, unchanged. The temple receives them as it has for centuries, and you feel yourself included in that quiet exchange. You breathe once more, long and slow. The incense still lingers, gentle now, more memory than presence. The stone beneath you remains warm enough to reassure. You realize that here, among smoke, song, and shadow, nothing is demanded of you except to exist. That is enough. The Nile will wait outside, the boatman will wait at the shore, and the river will carry you when you are ready. Night gathers slowly, but once it arrives it is complete. The sky above the river is no longer a ceiling but a vast field, dark velvet scattered with stars. They come one by one at first, cautious, then by dozens, until the heavens are crowded with light. The felucca drifts once more from the temple's landing, its sail catching the faintest breath of wind. Water folds open at the bow, then closes again, as though nothing has disturbed it. The air has changed. It is cooler now, clean, almost sharp, but not unfriendly. Each breath feels like a sip of clarity. The smell of resin from the temple has faded, replaced by the deeper scent of water and night air. The silence is not empty. It is filled with tiny sounds, the ripple of current, the stretch of rope, the soft creak of wood that has sailed this way before. Every sound belongs, none intrudes. The boatman sits at the stern, eyes lifted not to the river but to the sky. He does not need a compass. The constellations are his map. His gaze follows lines you cannot see at first, but soon the stars begin to connect, drawing figures older than the temples themselves. A hunter, a lion, a river of light that crosses the heavens as the Nile crosses the earth. You feel yourself smaller, but also more included, as if you are one thread in a fabric woven without end. The boat glides almost without motion. With no oars and little wind, it seems carried by intention alone. You lie back against the deck, rope beneath your head, and watch the constellations move. They do not rush. Their pace is steady, slower than thought, exact as breathing. You match your own breath to their rhythm. In, pause, out, pause. Each cycle draws you closer to stillness. The water mirrors the sky so completely that at times it is difficult to know which is above and which is below. Stars shimmer across the surface, bending and breaking as the current shifts. The sail cuts through their reflection, and for a moment the felucca appears to sail through two skies at once. The thought carries no weight. It simply rests inside you like a stone at the bottom of a pond, still and certain. The boatman hums quietly. The tune has no words, no beginning or end, only a circle of notes repeated softly enough that you might mistake it for the current itself. The sound folds into the night, a reminder that not all songs need to be heard fully to be understood. You feel your eyelids grow heavier. Each blink lasts longer, as though the body wishes to join the river in its slow and endless flow. Far off, the call of a night bird carries across the water. Its note is clear, singular, and then it fades. Frogs answer with their own chorus from the reeds along the shore, not insistent but steady, like a heartbeat. The world feels alive but not awake. It exists in balance, half in dream, half in silence, and you are welcome in both. The felucca continues forward, though no destination is announced. There is no urgency, no measure of distance. The journey itself is the place. The boat knows the current, the boatman knows the stars, and you know the peace of surrender. Nothing more is required. If you sleep, the river will carry you. If you wake, the stars will remain. In either case, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Dawn does not arrive all at once. It begins as a cool idea along the edges of the sky, a thin line of silver laid across the horizon. The stars grow pale without surrendering their dignity. The river, which kept its dark voice through the night, softens. You wake the way a leaf wakes, by noticing light before deciding to move. The felucca has drifted to a quiet reach, where reeds write thin music against the water. Mist lies low on the surface like breath that has not yet dispersed. The air is cooler than your skin and smells faintly of wet clay and green things. You sit up slowly. Rope gives beneath your shoulder and remembers to be comfortable. Wood greets the shift in your weight with a single friendly creak. Birds are the first to speak. One call, high and pensively bright, hangs for a moment and finds an answer from farther downriver. A string of ibis lifts out of the reeds and crosses in pale silhouettes, their wings rowing the morning into motion. From the bank comes a soft thud, a fisher lowering a basket, careful with the quiet, careful with the day. The boatman is already awake. He moves as though he does not wish to disturb the place where night and morning are shaking hands. From a small brazier, he coaxes a flame, feeding it with twists of palm fiber that catch with a patient glow. Soon a kettle begins to think aloud, not yet boiling, only coming to terms with the request. When it sings, the voice is modest. He drops a few mint leaves into a cup and pours water that has learned heat. Steam rises, folding the cold from the air. He offers you the cup. It warms your fingers. The breath above it tastes like green. You drink, and the spine remembers it was built to stand without effort. Bread appears, wrapped in cloth, a heel left from yesterday. He breaks it and gives you half. The crust crackles between your fingers. You eat without hurry, as if each bite has its own small history to tell. From the reeds, frogs speak a last sentence in their night language and fall silent, satisfied that the translation into day can proceed. Light thickens. Blue becomes pearl, then a wash of diluted gold. The sun itself is still hidden, but the world behaves as though it has seen a memo. Shadows produce themselves in tidy order. On the far bank, palm trunks take on definition, and the low hills behind them grow contours like a hand finding bones beneath skin. The river begins to write its reflections in complete sentences. A small breeze arrives from up valley. The sail stirs, just enough to show that it knows its work. The boatman lifts the rudder and tilts the blade, testing the water's mood. The felucca answers with a slow pivot toward the current. You feel the boat change from sleeping to waking, a shift so slight it could be mistaken for your own breath. Along the mud slope, the first workers of the day move like stitches in a seam, steady, level, purposeful. A pair of oxen step into their yoke with the tolerant wisdom of animals that understand tasks better than explanations. A woman rinses a pot at the edge, the ring of clay against clay carrying clearly in the clean air. Nearby, two boys test a new net by holding it up to the light. Their laughter makes small, bright marks on the morning. Now the sun lifts, not fast, not theatrical, simply present. It clears the hills and lays a coin of light across the water that broadens with each breath. The mist loosens, rises, and becomes nothing. Warmth finds the deck, then your knees, then your face. The day steps fully into its place, and nothing looks hurried about it. You may close your eyes for a moment, not to return to darkness, but to learn the light from within. Behind your lids, you can still tell where the river lies by the coolness it throws upward. You can still hear the geometry of morning, the even clap of oars somewhere downstream, the narrow rip of a heron's wings, the distant rhythm of hands working grain against stone. When you open your eyes again, the world has clarified by a degree. The water is a pale green sheet brushed with gold. The sail holds its curve with quiet pride. The boatman ties off a coil and checks the knots as if greeting old friends. Nothing dramatic, only the maintenance of trust. He meets your glance and nods. No hurry. The river is ready when you are. Before you depart, you take one slow look around. Palm shadows standing straight, a line of mud brick houses catching the new sun on their shoulders, smoke lifting from a single early cook fire and then forgetting to be smoke. A cat steps along the river stones as though it owns each curve, and perhaps it does. Across the broad channel, fields shine in low gloss, every furrow a sentence promising grain. The felucca leans into motion with the gentlest of decisions. Water slides away from the bow, whispering approval. The long day lays itself out ahead like a path that does not need to be measured. You rest your back against the rope and let the warmth find your chest. The breath falls into its daytime tempo. In and there is room, out and there is ease. The journey continues the way all good mornings continue, without proclamation, carrying forward what the night prepared. The Nile moves, the light grows, and the world offers itself again as a place where your presence does not need to prove anything. The boatman trims the sail. The shore drifts by in the rhythm of an unhurried pulse. And you travel on, accompanied by water, by wind, and by a sun that knows how to be gentle at the start. The day gathers itself slowly, piece by piece, until the sun holds the sky in both hands. Heat does not rush. It builds, layering itself like cloth. First the shoulders warm, then the stones, then the air between. The Nile accepts it all, catching the light in thousands of moving shards. The felucca glides and its sail flashes pale against the wide expanse of blue. The river is alive with others now. Small fishing boats move along the banks, their nets trailing like silver handwriting across the current. Children splash in shallows, their laughter carrying farther than the ripples they make. A farmer guides his oxen into the river to cool their hides. The animals sink slowly, closing their eyes as if remembering a dream. Birds pick at the surface, wings bright as coins. From the deck, You feel the sun's weight begin to rest on your skin. It is not yet sharp, only insistent. The boatman adjusts the sail, giving it just enough curve to keep the breeze engaged. Midday is the river's test, he murmurs, not to warn but to inform, as if the Nile itself needs the respect of acknowledgement. You nod, and the current nods with you. The banks reveal their labor. Women kneel at the water's edge, washing linen against smooth stones. Their arms rise and fall in slow rhythm, as though they are conducting the river's own pulse. Nearby, men lift water in jars to pour over thirsty earth, coaxing green shoots into becoming fields. Palm fronds move lazily, brushing the sky like strokes of a half-forgotten painting. The world works, but without the strain of haste. The felucca drifts close enough that you can hear voices, soft and unhurried. One woman hums a tune while rinsing grain, and the sound joins the slap of cloth, the call of birds, and the occasional bray of a donkey. It is a symphony without composer, made only of tasks, each note belonging. The air smells of wet fiber, crushed reeds, and the faint sweetness of dates drying on mats in the sun. The boatman offers you a jar of water drawn earlier from a cool clay vessel. You drink slowly. The water is thick with presence, tasting faintly of stone, faintly of life. It settles into you with the confidence of something that knows it is needed. He tears a piece of bread, dips it into a bowl of oil flavored with coriander, and passes it along. The taste is plain, but plainness has its own kind of richness. Overhead, the sky whitens with the climb of the sun. Shadows shrink, pressing themselves tight against walls and roots. The river gleams, too bright to look at directly. You close your eyes, and the sounds grow sharper. Oars knocking gently against wood, goats calling from the bank, the wind brushing its fingers along the edge of the sail. You hear your own breathing join these, unremarkable but essential, like the line of a reed among reeds. A heron lifts from the shore, wings spreading wide, each beat measured and complete. It rises into the blue until it becomes a pale line against distance. Watching it, you feel time loosen. The boat continues forward, but the movement no longer counts as travel. It is simply participation in the river's unfolding. The destination is the same as the journey, to be carried, to exist, to endure with patience. Midday passes in this way, not marked by bells or clocks, but by the angle of light and the slowing of hands. The sun rests at its highest point, and everything beneath it bows in acknowledgement. The felucca leans into the current, and you lean back into the rope that remembers you. The day has no demand except to be lived, and so you live it, quietly, across the wide arms of the Nile. The sun leans westward, and its light softens as if tired from its climb. Shadows grow longer, stretching themselves like animals finding comfort at the end of a long watch. The Nile changes color with every passing moment, from silver to gold, from gold to copper, and then to a shade that refuses to be named. The river becomes a mirror for all things that are patient. The felucca glides with the same measured ease. The boatman loosens the sail just slightly, allowing the breeze to thin into a whisper. The mast groans once, then settles into silence. You recline against the coiled rope, and the fibers are warm now, holding the sun the way a blanket holds heat from a fire. You shift, and it adjusts, ready to keep you. On the banks, the fields conclude their day's work. Men gather tools, pressing blades into the earth as though thanking the soil. Women fold cloths and carry jars balanced on their heads, the water within moving but never spilling. Children are called home by names spoken gently, not shouted. The calls drift across the river like threads of music, and the air receives them without hurry. Animals too know the hour. Oxen are unyoked and led to shaded corners where hay waits. Goats are counted, not quickly but thoroughly, each one a note in the village's chorus of care. Dogs patrol the edges once before choosing a spot to curl into, satisfied that the land will watch itself until morning. Birds wheel overhead, their wings flashing like small mirrors, before settling into the reeds with sighs of feather against feather. The air grows cooler. You notice it first on your arms, then in your breath. It is the kind of coolness that makes you grateful for warmth without wishing it back. The smell of the river deepens, more mineral, more certain. Smoke begins to lift from the far bank, thin and vertical at first, then spreading as if remembering how to be sky. Fires are being coaxed into life for the evening meal. The boatman unwraps another small basket. Inside are figs, split open to reveal their ruby flesh, and a piece of cheese wrapped in leaves. He offers you some without words. The fruit is soft, the cheese briny, together forming a balance that seems designed rather than accidental. You eat, and the taste is less about hunger than about belonging to this hour. The sun lowers another handbreadth, and the world tilts gently toward rest. The river slows with the evening wind. Ripples spread wider, and their sound becomes more like a hush than a voice. The felucca leans into this softness, moving forward without effort, content to be carried. You match its rhythm, breathing slowly, your chest rising as the boat rises, falling as it falls. The harmony between body and vessel requires no intention. It simply exists. Distant voices begin to gather in song. They are not loud, not even close, but the melody finds you. Perhaps it comes from workers returning home, or from a family gathered around a fire. The words are indistinct, but the tune is certain, slow, circular, complete. It enters the air and becomes part of it, inseparable from the evening. The boatman tilts his head once, listening, then returns to the rudder without comment. The sky prepares its transformation. Blue fades into violet, violet into rose, rose into the thin silver of twilight. Clouds catch fire for a moment, edges glowing red, then surrender their color as night claims them. The first star appears early, bold in its solitude, before others gather to join it. You watch them blink into being, as though the heavens are opening a window, one hinge at a time. The day closes in gratitude, not haste. Fields have given their labor, villages their care, the river its passage. Now all of it bends toward the same conclusion: rest. The felucca glides forward under the evening sky, and you glide with it. Your eyes grow heavier, but the weight is not a burden. It is simply the truth of the hour. The Nile carries you onward, and the night waits with open hands. Night has deepened into its full strength. The last embers of twilight are gone, and the heavens stretch endlessly above, thick with stars. They are so many, so constant, that it feels as though the sky itself has been dusted with light. The Milky Way drifts across the dark like a pale river, echoing the Nile below. Two waters flow tonight, one of earth, one of sky, and you rest between them. The felucca moves as though it is part of this balance. Its sail no longer strains but rests, curved gently in the faintest breeze. The wood beneath you is warm in places, cool in others, carrying the memory of both day and night. Each creak of the hull is steady, familiar, like the sound of a house settling into sleep. The river accepts the vessel without question, carrying it forward with the patience of centuries. The air is cooler now, wrapping around you in soft layers. It carries scents both near and far. the wetness of reeds along the banks, the fading smoke of village fires, the sweetness of figs that have split open under the day's heat. Now and then the breeze shifts, and with it comes the faintest trace of incense from a temple far upstream, reminding you that devotion too lingers in the night. The world has grown quiet. A jackal calls once in the distance, and silence answers. Frogs sing in a low chorus from hidden pools, their voices blending with the pulse of the river. The sounds do not disturb. They weave together like threads in a blanket, covering the night in a fabric of calm. Every note belongs. Nothing is out of place. The boatman sits at the stern, steady, his face lit softly by starlight. He hums again, the same melody as before, low, circular, without beginning or end. The song folds itself into the air, so gentle that you can hardly tell where it ends, and your own breathing begins. His voice is not a performance. It is a reassurance, a reminder that you are safe, that the river knows its way. You recline fully, eyes tracing constellations as they cross the sky. The hunter, the lion, the river of stars that reflects the Nile. Slowly their stories dissolve into patterns of light and distance. You no longer try to name them. You let them exist as they are, eternal, patient, watching. They remind you that time is not a wall, but a current, and you are carried within it, never lost. The water mirrors the sky so completely that the world feels doubled. Stars shimmer on the surface, bending and breaking with each ripple. For moments at a time, you cannot tell where the heavens end and the river begins. You feel suspended between the two, afloat not only on the Nile but within the cosmos itself. The thought is vast, yet it comforts. To be small here is to be perfectly placed. Sleep approaches the way night approached, slowly, gently, with no need for hurry. Your body has already begun to let go. Shoulders grow heavy, arms soften, fingers relax their hold on the day. Even your breath feels looser now, drifting in and out as if it too belongs to the river. The deck beneath you holds steady, cradling your weight as though it has carried travelers into rest countless times before. If your eyes close, the river will not mind. It will keep moving, carrying you forward with the same steady rhythm. The stars will remain above, countless and kind. The boatman will guide, needing no thanks. The Nile has carried kings and farmers, builders and dreamers, and now it carries you. All are equal in its arms. All are given the same gentle passage into stillness. You are safe here. You are held here. The night has gathered you into its keeping, and nothing more is required. Let the river continue its journey. Let the stars keep their watch. Let the earth turn in silence. You have earned rest, and rest has come to claim you. Drift, then, into the deep quiet. Drift into the sleep that waits, patient and endless, as eternal as the sands themselves.